Hi quilters, here's a quick tutorial for our Easter Bunny treat bag. They are a quick little project that is fun to make and so stinking adorable. Supplies needed are two 6-inch cuts of fabric that have a contrast to them, some cute little buttons, some thread, a marking pencil, and your regular sewing supplies along with a pom-pom for the tail. I just bought a pom-pom garland at the Dollar General and just took all the pom-poms off the string. You also need some of those soft little ponytail holders that you can also get at the dollar store. Make sure you get your favorite candy to put inside the treat bags. Now it's time to cut and sew. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. Two 6-inch cuts of fabric will make two bunnies. You're going to cut two rectangles from each that are 6 inches by 18 inches. I've just got the fold lined up on the 9 and that will give me the correct length. Once I've got my pieces cut, I want to make a center dot. I want to measure 3 inches from the side and 4.5 inches down from the top or 4.5 inches up from the bottom. Either way, it'll be the center dot. The next thing you want to do is cut from the dot to 1/4 inch away from the side of the piece. And I'm going to use my mark on my ruler. I've got this handy 1/4 inch mark, and I'm going to set that 1/4 inch away from the corner and then on the dot, and I'm going to cut right between. Now I don't get all the way close to the dot because I'm going to have to finish that off with a scissor, but you want to cut both at the same time. You're cutting through all of the layers. And then I just flip it around so that I can cut the other side of this triangle that I'm cutting. And I'm going to go from the corner almost to the dot. And then I'll finish it off with a sharp little scissor that lets me get in really close without cutting through the dot. We are cutting two different bunnies at the same time. So one will have the hot pink as the outside and the lacy pink as the inside, and the other bunny is going to have the lacy pink as the outside and the hot pink as the inside. It's really handy to just cut through all the layers at once, and then you only have to make 4 cuts. Now that the cutting is done, it's time to head to the sewing machine. With the right sides together, you're going to sew 1/4 inch away from the side and sew all along the side through the fold. On the lining piece, you want to leave a place to turn the bunny right side out. So you're going to want to leave about a 2-inch opening. And so you're going to sew on this seam, but you're going to sew from the top to the line and then from the line to the bottom. And you're going to leave that 2-inch opening. I do a little back stitch when I get to that line so that that seam is not going to pull apart when I'm turning it right side out. I also back stitch when I start the next seam so that, again, it doesn't pull out when I'm turning the bunny right side out. Now it's time to box out the corner to get our little square bottom. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull the sides of it apart and you're going to match up the side seams to each other. And then you're going to kind of make that bottom into a square. Make sure you get the corners all the way pulled apart. And then you're just going to sew a line on each side across, and it'll be about 1 inch away from the point. And I just use my measurement on my sewing machine to find the inch. I've got a little spot where I kind of know where it's at. And then you want to make sure that the seam that's underneath is always pointing the same direction. I do a back stitch at both the start and the finish of this seam just to make it extra strong. Once all 4 of those seams are sewn, you want to trim the seam allowance down to 1/4 inch. And there you have it. That makes the bottom of the bag. Now it's time to do a little finger press to make sure that seam is going to go that direction. And I just did a little finger press here on all the seams. If you wanted to, you could take it over to the ironing board and press it, but I found it easy just to do a little bit of a finger press. You want to make sure to do that for both of the pieces, the outside of the bunny and the lining of the bunny. Once you've got it pressed, then you're going to turn one of the pieces right side out and kind of box out that bottom. Make sure it's got a nice rectangle shape to it. And then you're going to slip it right inside the other one. And then we're going to pin it together. And I line up the sides first because those seams will nest together, and make sure to line them up and then pin them. Once the sides are pinned, then you're going to kind of work the other sides in, and you're going to pin where the V's are. And this is a little bit trickier. You have to kind of wiggle it to get it all to line up together. And then I'm going to pin it right at that V. Once that's done, you're going to line up the sides, and I'm going to use 3 more pins to get 3 of the sides aligned, and then I can start sewing. Now you're going to sew 1/4 inch away from the edge all the way around, full circle. And when you get to the V's, you want to do a little back stitch at each of the V's where you start and where you finish, because that'll kind of help reinforce the V for when you turn it right side out. To turn it and go the other direction, you want to have the needle in the down position, and then you're just going to lift the presser foot and pivot around to start going in the other direction. You're going to use that seam as your guide of where the top of the ear is, and you want to back stitch and reinforce that. And then when you land in that seam, you're going to put your needle down and turn around and pivot, do your back stitch, and just keep going. This part does take a little repositioning as you're sewing to get it to lay flat, but it's not hard to do. Once you get to the end, you're just going to sew right through that line that you started at, and then take it off the sewing machine. Before moving on, I checked to make sure I got all the seams sewn and it looks good. Trim away the excess fabric at the points of the ears. You want to get close to the seam without cutting through it. Use a scissor that's very sharp to the very tip to cut into the V, and you want to cut right up to that seam line. Now it's time to turn the whole thing right side out. It looks a little funny at this point, but keep going, you're doing the right thing. And then you want to kind of get the tips of the ears to come out as much as you can. You could use a seam ripper or a purple thing or a tweezers to kind of help you pull it out as much as you can. Once you have the ears looking the way you want at the very top, then it's time to close the opening. I just folded the seam, and then I just sewed right along that very edge, very close to the edge of it, and it sews it together, and you don't have to hand stitch it. Now that it's sewn up, tuck that lining into the inside. This would be a great time to step over to the ironing board and press the ears flat. I think I'm going to put my tail in first. So what I'm going to do is put it lining side out, and then on the side where there isn't a seam, I'm going to kind of center the pom-pom, and then I'm going to use a safety pin and just pin through all the layers to get the pom-pom in place. I'm also going to add a little button nose. So I just found a cute little pink button, and I'm just going to, about an inch away from the V, I'm going to sew it into place. If you wanted to, you could also add buttons for eyes and maybe do a little embroidery work for some whiskers or something, but I just wanted it to be very simple and fast. If you don't want to sew these items in, you could also just hot glue them at the very end. Now I'm just going to take this over to the ironing board and press these ears flat. Once it's pressed, it's time to add in some candy or any other kind of little treat that you want to add into your bunny. When putting in the candy, don't overfill it. Just put it up to about the point where the nose is. Put the hairband at the top of the ears, kind of tuck those sides in a little bit, and then grab the two ears, pull them apart, and you'll get the hairband in place. It may take a few adjustments to get the ears to look perfect. And there is our adorable little bunny. He's all done. Isn't he cute? You can even fold in one of the ears if you want, kind of tuck it right in there, and it'll stay and you'll have a folded ear bunny. I had so much fun making these. I could not stop at one, and I just kept making more and trying to use up some fun little fabrics I had left over from other projects. It doesn't take much fabric, so that's one thing about it. This one I didn't put a nose on it, but I still think he turned out cute. I did make one that was a little smaller than all the rest, and that's this pink one. And he's just a little bit smaller, and he was made from, I think, a 5-inch piece of fabric. And again, you just find the center to get it right. And they took about 15 to 20 minutes to make, and they were so fun and so cute. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make a comment and share it with your quilting friends. We sure would appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and happy quilting!